what are buildings or houses made of? All buildings and all houses are made up of building blocks known as bricks. So, what do you think? Which of the two buildings that you see here would require more number of bricks to build it? Definitely, this building is a lot bigger than this small house. So, a lot of bricks were needed to build this entire structure. Now, see, this is a mighty elephant and this is a tiny ant. This is a huge banyan tree and this is a small sapling. Elephant and ant will have animal cells in their body, and banyan tree and this small sapling will have plant cells in their body. Now tell me, which ones do you think will have more number of animal cells or plant cells? Definitely the elephant, since it is a lot bigger than this tiny ant or this great banyan tree, is huge in size compared to this small sapling. So these two will have more number of cells in their body. So cell number is directly proportional to the size of the body. Directly proportional means the size of the body, if it increases, the number of cells will also increase. So the number of cells is dependent on the size of the body. Now can you tell me, will Ruby or will her baby brother have more number of cells in their body? Well, yes. Ruby will have more number of cells in her body because she's all grown up, she's matured, and she has a bigger body than her baby sibling. So she will have more number of cells. Now look around. You see so many trees, animals, human beings. Now all of these living organisms form the first class of living organism, which is known as the complex multicellular organisms. Multicellular because all these living organisms, say for human beings, we are made up of a lot number of cells. Hence, we are multicellular. Multi means more than one, and cellular comes from the word cells. Now, why complex? That is because these cells have different specific functions in our body. There are also living organisms around us which we cannot see through our naked eyes, but even they are present around us. Well, if you take an example of this test tube of water, then apparently it looks clean. But if you observe it under the microscope, then it won't appear clean anymore. Under the microscope, you will be able to see microorganisms like these. So these microorganisms, which you cannot see through naked eye, but you can visualize them under the microscope, forms the next class of living organisms, and they are known as simple multicellular organisms. These are a few examples of this category. Now, multicellular, from the word, now you know that it means that the organism has cells more than one. See? Hence, these are all multicellular organisms. Now, why simple? Simple Because all these cells that make up the body have similar functions, unlike the cells of complex multicellular organisms, which have different specific functions to perform in the body. Then, whenever we are drinking water, are we taking in so many microorganisms? Well, no. Depending on the source of water, the amount of microorganisms will vary. If you are having pure water from home, this water will contain very less microorganisms. But if you see and check sewage water, dirty water like this, you will find a lot of microorganisms present in them. Now, are microorganisms present only in the water? Let us see. Now, suppose one day what happened was you went to school and you found your best friend very sick. She was coughing and sneezing. Then, when you came back home in the evening, even you fell ill. You were running temperature and you were coughing and sneezing as well. So, how did this happen? Well, while coughing or sneezing, your friend released all these microorganisms in the air which had infected her. And since you were inhaling the same air, these microorganisms entered your system and made you ill. So from here, we can say that microorganisms are present everywhere. They can either be airborne or waterborne, anywhere. Now, we've spoken about simple and complex multicellular organisms. Now, are all organisms made up of so many cells? Well, there can be organisms that are single-celled. That is, they have only one cell that make up their entire body. See? An example of one such organism. This entire body is made up of only one cell. And these organisms form the third category of living organisms, unicellular organisms. Uni means one, and cellular comes from the word cells. Now, these unicellular organisms can perform all these functions by themselves. They can respire, they can grow, they can move, they can excrete, and so on. Now, if one cell can do so many work, like in the case of these single-celled organisms, then why do we need multicellular organisms? Well, let us see this example now. This man has a small-scale weaving factory. He is the only person working here. He stitches the cloth, puts designs on them, works in marketing and sales of these manufactured goods. He does all the work all by himself. Now compare this to a huge cotton mill like this. It is a huge factory with a lot of people working here. So different people have been allotted different functions and different departments. Like there are a few workers who work on the raw material department. It is their duty to procure all the raw materials. Some of them are involved in the processing, manufacturing, or the packaging department. So all these people have been allotted different departments. So similarly, we can see human beings are complex multicellular organisms. Now, if a single celled organism can perform all functions such as growth, movement, reproduction, then why do we need complex multicellular organisms? Well, in complex multicellular organisms, cells have been allotted different functions. Cells performing similar functions form a structure known as tissues, and tissues form the different organs such as the brain, which does the thinking for us, the heart that pumps the blood for us. Now see, in the previous example that we saw, the man was single-handedly performing all the work. He was stitching the cloth, he was he was designing embroideries on it, he was manufacturing and marketing them all by himself. But in the cotton mill, different departments were allotted for these jobs. One department was handling the procuring of raw materials, another department was handling the marketing. So the net output and the efficiency is much more in the cotton mill than the person who is doing all the work by himself. So similarly, a complex multicellular organisms have different cells allotted to perform different work, whereas a single-celled organism does all the work itself. So the efficiency is much more in a complex multicellular organism. So all human beings are complex multicellular organisms. Now you would be surprised to know that even us, we spent one day as a single cell. See? We were a single cell like this. The single cell divided to form two cells. Two formed four. And this process continued. So, one cell divided to form a lot of cells till a fetus was formed inside your mother's womb, and then ultimately you were born.